Hey guys, Cadin here, and in my last video, the one where I got my 100th solo win, I said this. My next video that I upload is probably going to be me discussing what my personal loot pool would be for the next chapter of Fortnite. And well, that's what I'm doing today. This is my personal idea for what I would do if I were in charge of the loot pool for Chapter 4. This is easily my highest effort video that I have ever made to date. I've spent like most of yesterday and today working on it. I spent yesterday working on the script for it and also all the weapon stats and how all of that would work. And I spent most of the day coming up with all the graphics to showcase to you all how that would look in game. So I would really appreciate it if you all showed me some support by either liking, subscribing, or using my creator code, which is Cadin-M. Make sure to include the hyphen. The reason why I decided to do all this was first off because I have nothing better to do with my time, and secondly, I believe I could provide a pretty good insight on what would be balanced and healthy for this game, considering I have, well, over 4,000 hours logged into it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. This first section isn't really specifically about weapons, but it's just like general things that I would do, like just gameplay wise. So first off, we know, or well, we don't really know, we speculate that first person mode is coming in the next chapter, and because of that, I believe that if we have first person, there should not be any bloom while we aim down sights. And if you don't know what bloom is, I'll go ahead and explain that. Basically, bloom is the shooting model that Fortnite uses. So right here on screen, I have a picture of a weapon crosshair. In the middle of the crosshair is what's known as the reticle. And on the outside of that reticle, there are 4 lines. That is the cone of fire. So basically, anywhere inside of that cone of fire is where your bullets can potentially land. But your reticle is where your bullets should land. If we do end up getting first-person mode next chapter, I want to make it so that whenever we aim down sights, there is no cone of fire, and our bullets always land in the center of the screen and on our reticle. However, to compensate for this, I want to give every weapon their own actual recoil patterns. Not none of that pussy shit that we have right now where the weapon just kicks up slightly and then stays there, like the combat SMG. I want to make sure that every weapon that is on paper very strong is balanced out by having a difficult to control recoil pattern, so that we don't get overwhelmed by another spray meta. The second thing that I would do is I would remove the limit on mini heals and bandage heals. So basically, what I would do, you know how currently minis and bandages are set to like a hard limit? Like with minis, you can't heal past 50 shield, and with bandages you can't heal past 75 health. I would remove that. Honestly, I think it's really dumb that that exists. I mean, it doesn't exist in any other game, so why does it exist in Fortnite? However, if they do go down that route, they're gonna have to like either buff the time that it takes to drink a big pot or nerf the time it takes to drink a mini shield, because then objectively mini shields will just be the best healing item, and that's not exactly what we want. Another thing that I would do, and this is more just like a broad thing, it's been leaked quite a few times, but I would finally introduce like attachments, and if not attachments, I would at least introduce sights, since we are getting first person mode, or well, we think we're getting first person mode, so it would make sense if we got sights. And finally, okay, hear me out, alright? I think it would be really cool if next chapter, Epic were to bring back double pump. For variety's sake, I believe that in any loot pool there should be at least at least 2 assault rifles. And those 2 assault rifles should be noticeably different from each other. Beginning of this chapter, we had the Mark 7 and the Ranger, and both of them were very different. The Mark 7 had low damage, a high fire rate, and a red dot sight. Meanwhile, the Ranger was fucking terrible. I want to sort of refine this concept, having one AR be more suited for long range and the other more suited for close or medium range, but making sure they're not as broken as the Mark 7 or as trash as the Ranger. The first one of these I want to talk about is the mid-range assault rifle. Alright, hold on. So before I talk about the mid-range AR, we need to go over something very important that was changed quite drastically during Chapter 3, that being damage ranges. Damage ranges refer to the distance between the furthest that you can do your maximum weapon damage and the closest that you'll be able to do your minimum weapon damage. So let's say that the standard damage range of an assault rifle is 50 and 100 meters. Between this range is when damage fall off will start and end. So if you have a regular AR, at 50 meters, that is the furthest away that you can do your most amount of damage, which is the base damage on paper. And at 100 meters away, that is the minimum amount of damage that you will do from that point and beyond. Prior to Chapter 3, assault rifles would normally do 67% of their maximum damage at minimum damage range. Now, an AR that was introduced during Chapter 3 still has the same ranges, but at max fall-off damage, they do 90% of their max damage. That is literally insane. Like, that is the exact reason why the Mark 7 and the AUG were so broken during this chapter. I mean, the AUG was so bad that it was literally the only weapon that they changed the damage ranges on, and it's still so good. For my loot pool, I'm just going to use what we had prior to Chapter 3, because that honestly makes a lot of sense to me. Alright, now we move on to the mid-range AR. So for this weapon, I wanted to combine some factors of the tactical AR and the combat AR, since they remind me most of an AR SMG hybrid weapon. Below average damage, above average fire rate, good hip fire accuracy unless you're sprinting or jumping with the combat, and are most effective at close to mid-range. Using these as a reference, I created the Shredder Assault Rifle. I know it's a shit name, I suck at these. The Shredder goes from gray to gold rarity, doing 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26 respectively, with a 1.75 headshot multiplier. It has a fire rate of 8 bullets per second, a mag size of 32, and reload times, depending on rarity, of 2.9, 2.8, 2.7, 2.6, and 2.5. The damage falloff for this weapon is the same as the standard that I previously created, and on screen now I will show you what the hip fire accuracy would be for this weapon. So as you can see, in the middle I have a white dot representing the reticle, I have 4 blue lines which represent the minimum spread that you can have, and 4 red lines which represent the max spread, and I'm now realizing that these are the same colors as the American flag. Fitting. Alright, so in case you couldn't tell by my incredible handwriting, this is the part of the video where we'll be talking about the recoil of the Shredder Assault Rifle. So, I was thinking that in terms of the recoil pattern for this weapon in particular, it would start out like as being a sideways 8, and then it would just continue going straight up for the rest of the mag. So let me go ahead and draw that out for you. So right here, let's say right here is the center of fire. This is where you start shooting, and let's say you aren't trying to compensate for recoil. This is what the recoil pattern would look like. So it would start out, obviously, we're trying to make a sideways 8 shape, so it would start out going out, coming back around, then going out again, coming back around once more, and then I said it will just go straight up for the rest of the pattern. I decided to base this weapon's design off of the KG-M40 assault rifle because, I don't know, I just kind of found it cool, I guess. When designing this, I wanted to make a weapon that could fare as a joint AR SMG, killing quick, having good range, but not the best at long-range engagements. I believe I was able to achieve that with this weapon. It doesn't have the stopping power of the other AR I'm about to talk about, or the suppressive nature of the SMG I made, but it can fill the role of both if you don't have either. Now, let's move on to the other AR. I mainly had the AK and the scoped AR in mind when I made this weapon. High damage, low fire rate, low mag size, but good range. I introduced to you the high power rifle. This weapon goes from gray to gold rarity, doing 35, 37, 39, 41, and 43 damage respectively with a 1.75 headshot multiplier, a fire rate of 3.5, a mag size of 20, and a reload speed for each rarity of 2.6, 2.5, 2.4, 2.3, and 2.2. The damage ranges of this weapon are standard, but the minimum damage is actually 75% instead of 67%. And on screen right now you can see the hip fire. And now for the recoil, and I promise it's not actually a meme this time. This is seriously a recoil pattern that I decided to make. So I'm thinking right here, as per usual, we have the normal fire. So whenever you shoot 1 bullet, I'm thinking it will have a pretty heavy kick. So it would go up about like it would go up a little bit, but then in between shots it would try to come back down, but then reset. So so like after you fire 1 shot, it will try to come back down. Let's say it gets back down to about halfway, but then you'll be able to shoot another shot, and then it would just go straight back up again. Then it'll try to come back down, get halfway, and shoot up. try to come back down halfway, then shoot up, and it would just continue on like that for the entire magazine. The design for this weapon was based off of the XM5 assault rifle because, once again, I just kind of thought it looked cool. My main motivation for the change in minimum damage was to solidify this weapon's dominance in long-range fights over the Shredder. It obviously takes longer to kill someone with this in close range than the Shredder, but at long range, you'll find this weapon to be much more effective. Grab the bag, then rendezvous! For the same reason as the ARs, there should always be at least 2 shotguns in any loot pool. When I say this, most of you probably think pump and tack, and that's what I thought too. Have one shotgun be very powerful but slow, and let the other one be a bit weaker but be able to follow up faster. Hey, me again. We have something else that's very important that we need to talk about that also happened this chapter, and that is the shotgun rebalance update of Season 2. The Season 2 shotgun rebalance was the worst fucking update this game has ever seen, and I'm only slightly exaggerating. This introduced the max damage cap and increased the body shot damage of nearly every shotgun. So basically, shotguns became stupidly strong while not being able to hit for 200, making them incredibly unskillful. In my rendition of Chapter 4, I would completely remove the max damage cap and place a greater emphasis on hitting headshots in order to reward skilled players for being good at the game. The way I see it is, if snipers can one-shot even in no-build mode, shotguns should be able to at least hit 200. A couple more things to go over with shotguns are damage ranges and pellet count. In Chapter 1, the normal damage range of a shotgun was 7.5 to 40 meters, where you completely stopped doing damage past the mid-damage range. This was changed in Chapter 2, with the minimum damage range being cut down to 30 meters. The only weapon exempt from this rule was the pump, which had a lower max damage range than most other shotguns because I don't know, fuck the pump, I guess. Also, during both Chapter 1 and 2, most shotguns had 10 pellets in them and had a minimum damage of 3 pellets. But in Chapter 3, the standard became 12 total pellets and a minimum damage of 4 pellets. I would change the damage ranges back to how they were in Chapter 1, keep the 12 pellet standard, and completely remove the minimum pellet count. The way I see it is, if you can't place your crosshair on someone's body and hit for maximum damage, that's kind of on you. You don't deserve compensation for poor aim. Practice, and you'll get better. Finally, we're on to the first shotgun. And no, I'm not just gonna bring back the pump. Y'all got fucking clickbaited. Nah, I never knew that. However, this first shotgun is heavily based on the pump. I wanted to have something that did big damage with a low fire rate, and of course, could hit for 200. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, I introduce to you the Breaker Pump Shotgun. This weapon once again goes from common to legendary. It does 79.2, 83.7, 88.2, 92.7, and 97.2 respectively, with a 2.25 headshot multiplier, with a fire rate of 0.8, mag size of 5, and a reload for each rarity of 4.4, 4.3, 4.2, 4.1, and 4. And the damage fall off is completely standard with how I previously mentioned, and on screen right now I have the spread. The design for this weapon is completely based off the bear from Save the World because it's a really cool looking pump shotgun. Well, there you have it. A powerful shotgun that rewards going for the head on like literally every shotgun currently in the game. In all seriousness, I really hope something like this gets added in Chapter 4. We don't need another spray meta to begin a chapter. Anyways, let's talk about the other shotgun, which is very interesting, you'll find. When I first started making up a new tack shotgun, I was going to go very basic and do what most people would expect. But then I had an idea. What if there were a shotgun with 2 different firing modes? So that's what I went with. The second shotgun in my Chapter 4 is the Alternator shotgun. You're going to start to notice a common trend with all these weapons going from gray to gold. This one doing 67.2, 70.8, 74.4, 78, and 81.6 damage respectively for each rarity, having a 2 headshot multiplier. This weapon also has a fire rate of 2, a mag size of 8, and a reload of 5.2, 5, 4.8, 4.6, and 4.4 for each rarity. But it has the functionality to switch between firing pellets and slugs, similar to the slug-heavy shotgun. The damage fall-off for this shotgun once again is standard, but whenever you choose to switch to slug mode, your damage ranges will be increased by 1.5 times. So I'll show that on screen right now. And also I will be showing the spread for each different mode in the shotgun. For the design of this weapon, I based it off the Stampede from Save the World because, well, it's a shotgun, and it's already in Fortnite, so I figured why the hell not. The main reason why I wanted to do this was I just wanted to increase variety, because now it's basically like you have 3 shotguns with only 2 in the loot pool. I also put a lot of care into making sure this wasn't broken, because God knows it easily could be. We gon' get this W! Epic Games had to have been smoking that Walter White meth when they decided to make this season's SMGs. 2 of them are insanely broken, and the other one is literally the worst fucking weapon in the entire game. The main thing that makes these weapons broken, similar to the ARs, is what Epic did to their damage ranges. Prior to Chapter 3, the standard damage range of an SMG was 20 to 40 meters, and at their minimum damage range they would only be dealing 45% max damage. In Chapter 3, this was changed to a standard range of 40 to 80 meters and doing 75% max damage at minimum range. For an SMG, that is beyond overpowered. I don't need to explain why. Y'all probably played Chapter 3 Season 2. You used the combat SMG. That shit was literally more broken than the Season 5 P90, and you cannot argue with me on that because it's literally true. In Cadin Chapter 4, we would see SMGs revert back to the pre-Chapter 3 damage ranges, but I would increase the minimum damage to 50% rather than 45 because oh no, I like an even number. For the SMG I made, my main inspiration was actually the pepper sprayer from Save the World. I mean, bro, come on, look at this weapon and tell me you couldn't see it getting added to BR. Bro, it looks so goddamn cool. So I decided to add it myself. So, here is the Assault SMG. Damage for each rarity is 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, with a 1.75 headshot multiplier, a fire rate of 10.5, a max size of 34, and a reload of 2.5, 2.4, 2.3, 2.2, and 2.1. The damage fall-off is once again standard for this class, and the hipfire is just pretty much identical to the pepper sprayer.
Don't think I forgot about adding recoil. I would never forget about adding recoil to a weapon, especially not to an SMG. So basically, for the recoil on this weapon, in order to make it not overpowered, I want to make it a difficult recoil pattern to control. So let's say, once again, this right here is where our recoil starts at this little dot. So I'm thinking that for the initial recoil, like, for like, about 2/3 of the magazine, it would just be kind of going up but swaying a little bit, and then like when it starts reaching towards a peak, it would start swaying a lot more. So basically this would be the recoil. It goes up practically straight up for the majority of it, and then once you get towards the end of the magazine, it starts swaying and becoming very difficult to control.
I don't think I need to tell you what it's based off because I literally said it like 5 times at this point. I think I finally managed to do something that Epic Games has not done in a very long time. Make an SMG that isn't completely busted. I went through a couple renditions of this weapon and made sure the stats were just right.
But above all, I made sure to stick to one rule. Do not let it become a 4-shot. Because we all know what happened the last time there was a 4-shot SMG.
Sure, it has a high DPS, but its range is not nearly as good as the combat, and it actually has recoil too, unlike the combat. Same joke twice. Pistols are very often overlooked in shooter games because they're mostly seen as secondary weapons that you only use if you absolutely have to. But the pistol that we've had for the entirety of this chapter has seriously slapped. Like, I don't know what Epic did when they made that, but they seriously went off. And it literally, the gold rarity of it does 62 headshot damage, but no one talks about it because it's just a pistol. There's obviously better choices than it. So I got to thinking about how I could get people to care about a pistol. Then it hit me. What if I made an automatic pistol? So that's what I did. Here's the auto pistol. Very original name. The damage of each rarity is 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 with a 2x headshot multiplier, a fire rate of 12.5, max size of 18, and a reload of 1.9, 1.8, 1.7, 1.6, and 1.5. The damage fall-off goes from 25 meters at max range to 50 meters minimum range, dealing 60% max damage at minimum range. On screen right now is the hip fire for this weapon. I'll let y'all look at it for a little bit.
And now the recoil. So funny story, I was almost done editing the video, and then I remembered that I have to make the recoil for the auto pistol. So that's what you guys are watching right now, is this segment, and the reason I forgot about it is because it's a it's really just a very simple recoil pattern. So here we are right here, our starting point. And the idea I had in mind was I was just going to have it go straight up, but it was going to be at like a really, really violent pace. Like it was going to go up super quickly. And that's realistically all I really had in mind. So that's it for this segment. I decided to base the design of this weapon off the Glock 18, because I thought it would be really funny if we had a Glock in Fortnite. I'm fairly certain that if this were ever in the game, it would be used by many people. It can be an alternative to using the Assault SMG. They have very similar DPS, but function quite differently, so I can see both of them being viable in the meta.
And then attacking your fortress.
The Marksman Rifle weapon class is probably my favorite addition in Chapter 3. I've always thought there should be a DMR style weapon in Fortnite, and now there's 2 of them. Prior to this, the closest thing we've had to a DMR are the Auto Sniper, the Infantry Rifle, and the Scoped AR. Now we have the DMR and the Cobra DMR, the latter being my favorite. The main appeal of these weapons is rewarding players who can line up their shots with massive damage and no fall off. With all this in mind, I made the Striker DMR. This is the first weapon in this loot pool to not be all 5 rarities, because I feel like it doesn't really make sense to have something like this be every single rarity. But anyway, let's move on. The damage for each rarity is 64, 67, and 70 with a 2x headshot multiplier. It has a fire rate of 1.5, a max size of 6, and a reload speed of 3.4, 3.2, and 3. And this also has no damage fall off, but as with every other marksman weapon, it fires projectiles. And on screen right now you can see the hip fire of this weapon. This recoil pattern is probably going to be the least interesting out of all of them, and it's also the last one that I'm going to be talking about, because I don't think that I need to demonstrate a recoil pattern for a sniper rifle. But basically, I'm going to go ahead and set up the main dot where we start our aiming, and so I'm thinking that the recoil for this is very similar to the high power, but with one major difference. So basically, once you shoot, you initially get a high kick, but instead of not being able to fully reset, the Striker DMR will actually be able to get a full recoil reset before you fire your next shot. So that's basically the first shot. The second shot, you'll be able to reset. Third shot, you can reset. Fourth shot, reset, and you'll be able to do that for every single bullet. And I decided to base the design off the Longbow DMR from Titanfall, not Apex. Shut up. I'll be honest, I really struggled to come up with a name for it, and it honestly still doesn't sit very well with me, but it's the best I could really come up with. What I had in mind when creating this was something that sat directly in between the high power rifle and the sniper, and I think I managed to do that literally perfectly. It's undoubtedly stronger than the high power, but considerably more difficult to land shots with at long range. Also, it can't one-shot, like the sniper. Spoiler alert, I guess.
Y'all mad that I'm gorgeous.
Finally, we reached the closing act of the video. Snipers. Kinda hard to make a sniper that doesn't already exist, you know? There's so many snipers that do high damage and have only one shot, and most other snipers would likely be classed as marksman weapons now. But before I get into what sniper I made, there's something I need to address. Snipers are way too common for how powerful they are. A weapon that can instantly kill someone in any mode is something that you can find from pretty much every other chest or floor loot spawn. In my loot pool, you would only be able to find the sniper from either rare chests or supply drops, but they'd be more common from supply drops than rare chests. Of course, if you're going to limit something to mainly supply drops, it needs to be powerful, and this thing certainly is. The final weapon in my loot pool is the Crusher Sniper Rifle, and it is also the only weapon that I've decided to make mythic. The damage of this thing is 140 with a 3x headshot multiplier. If you want to do the math, you'll find that the headshot damage is very funny. A fire rate of 0.5, a max size of 3, and a reload speed of 4 seconds. And it comes with 6 reserve ammo, and if you run out of reserve ammo, you're done. And the hipfire for this weapon is pretty much the same as any other sniper. And speaking of which, I'm gonna go ahead and say this because I kind of forgot to. If I were to be in charge of making Chapter 4, I would bring back the sniper reticles that you have, because you all remember, I don't know if all of you do, but during Season 1, the snipers actually had reticles. But for some reason, they kind of decided to remove them one day. Personally, I'd bring them back. I don't see a reason for them to not be a thing. But anyway, side tangent over. In order to chamber the next bullet, you need to unscope. So that's why the fire rate is so slow. And I decided that I would base the design off the Vindertech Jolter from Save the World, because
Honestly, it just looks like a generally powerful weapon. I thought about the sniper I'd be making for quite a while, initially thinking it should be like the other snipers, floor loot, blue to gold, the usual. But then I had the idea to copy Apex Let to make an obviously broken sniper but only give it limited ammo, similar to a care package weapon from Apex. You can have your fun, instantly send people back to the lobby, but only for a limited time.
Medical package enormous.
God damn, this took so long, and my recording is at 39 minutes of me just speaking. This is gonna be hell to edit, but you know what? I enjoyed doing this, and I really did enjoy all of the, all the stat stuff that I did, because this is just something that I really enjoy doing. I don't know how to explain it other than repeating myself multiple times, but yeah, I had fun doing this, and I hope all of you enjoyed watching this too, if you even made it to the end of this video. But yeah, that's gonna be it for me. Let me know what you think, and let me know what you would do if you were in charge of the Chapter 4 loophole. But anyway, that's about it. See ya.
Yeah, hit that chug, yeah, hit that chug, yeah, hit it. Hit the chug, yeah, hit the chug, yeah, hit it. Storm's closing in and the game is almost finished. Got the high ground, now